Good evening. Welcome to the Steel City Huddle podcast. I'm LeeAnn Lohman, joined tonight, as always, by my partner, Zac Franciscus. And man, it has been like a weird month and a half. So, like, for those of you that watch, I've been dealing with some health issues with my mom. Zac's had some stuff going on. That means that, unfortunately, the show had to take a back seat for some family emergencies. And as bummed as we were to not be there, I have to be honest, I was almost glad that I had a day or two to decompress after the playoff loss to the Texans. So my mom's been sick. My cousin, who lives in Houston, who's a big Texans fan, is a geriatric specialist and has been helping me deal with all the care for my mom. So for the whole week leading up to that game, all I was getting was like memes about the Texans and like the Steelers losing. And yeah, I just couldn't say anything because I knew it was possible. And then here we are. Yeah. So I don't want to waste like hours on the game because look, we can't unflush that toilet and we've got like exciting change coming that I think is more worth our energy. But just, in a haiku, what were your feelings? Like, how did you feel about that game? Were you surprised?
It was a gut punch because they dragged it out longer than they did in the other games, and they gave me hope because I'm just sitting there. I'm like, our defense has this. Just score something. Just score. And when it kept not happening, I think that's why when the Tomlin thing happened, I was shocked, but I was like, okay, I get it because we rammed our head into the same wall again and again, and I think Tomlin maybe got a little bit of reality, and he's like, I asked for everything. They gave me everything I needed. And especially with him not giving a press conference, he is just like, this is it. It was on him. He didn't do it. He's done. So I hope he is relaxing wherever he is right now and taking the first deep breath he has had in 2 decades.
Yeah. And look, I just want to say, like, I know there's so many people out there that were like, good riddance, fuck you, glad you're gone, don't let the door hit you, like all of that stuff. And I just can't bring myself to feel that way. I said to somebody on X that, like, I can think I understand why it's time to maybe look at something new and bring change and still be grateful for like what Mike Tomlin brought to this team and how well we performed under him, right? Like, I don't have to like hate his guts. It's like an ex, right? You don't have to hate your ex to say like, hey, this isn't working out and we should part ways, right? Sometimes it just isn't meant to be anymore. And I mean, that's kind of my feeling on the Steelers. I think Tomlin saw the writing on the wall. He's always a man of few words, but he indicated, that he felt that this was best for the franchise. And I think that that's, sort of what some of us rational fans are seeing. But Zac, what was kind of your take on the fan base and Tomlin leaving and how it all happened?
Well, I'll start out there. There's a video that pretty much, to me, sums up what the fan base has been like and what will continue to be like throughout this entire process.
We mustn't panic. We mustn't panic.
It's true.
That's it.
And right before the show started, we said, like, we don't want to hear anything from the, like, anybody but Tomlin, because what did you speak into existence for us? We could end up with like Arthur Smith. Don't say anybody but Tomlin. Not anybody. Anybody could be Randy Fichtner. Don't say anybody.
Exactly. And this is just, it's going to be different. We also talked about that for a second before, because I understand that other coaching situations in the NFL right now are intriguing, or I can't believe, like the Bills one was out of left field for me. Could not believe that happened.
I was shocked. I was especially shocked because if you're going to fire somebody in the Bills, why was it not that GM? Like, there's so many personality issues, but whatever.
Especially if anybody wants to go down a rabbit hole of white men who have no idea what they're talking about, watch the press conference in Buffalo today. Yeah. It is just ridiculous.
I saw
like calling out players like just to them. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But with this is there are massive amounts of people on this fan base who weren't alive or weren't following the team enough to know what was going on the last time this happened. I remember I was young. We're talking almost 2 decades ago when this happened. So it was a different NFL. We were different Steelers. So much is different to this side that I wish I had answers, but I think me and you were just going to be kind of going along this waterfall with the rest of people, seeing where the hell it leads.
Yeah. It is true. I was talking about that driving back from rehab tonight that I was like solid in the Russ Grimm band camp. I mean, I was pretty young, but that's what everybody was saying was that we were going to hire Russ Grimm. And I lived in DC at the time, and I lived in DC when they won Super Bowls, right? And so in the 90s, I was a kid, and so I felt like, you know, I kind of knew this guy, and then now he's with my team, right? And he's so great. And I was all in. And so I was mad when he didn't get the job. I wasn't anti Mike Tomlin. I didn't really know anything about Mike Tomlin. I was just like pro Russ Grimm. And then it didn't take me long to realize that they'd obviously made the right decision. I mean, Russ Grimm was a coordinator for like one other team and left the league like 6 years later or something like that. Never became a head coach. I mean, it just, you know, so that maybe wouldn't have been the right fit for us. And, you know, obviously Tomlin, people can be frustrated with him, but you can't take away the accomplishments.
Exactly. And the one big thing people are going to notice really quickly into this rebuild, because there is the 1% chance that we'll get that perfect coach and the perfect quarterback and it all line up. And great. If that happens, I am more than happy to admit I was wrong about it and go along with the success. But Mike Tomlin's impact on bringing people into the organization is not here anymore. So that that was pretty much for the most part the attractive part of Pittsburgh. We for a while since then we haven't had a quarterback.
I mean, I thought about Tomlin, but yeah, I hadn't really thought about like that specific aspect, and that could prove to be something. Do you know what I mean? I think it all depends on what direction they go in and looking for this new head coach. And of course, like, you know, this is all that like is on X, right? Is this coaching search and the people they're interviewing and all of those things. So the names that are out there right now, they met with Brian Flores. Mike McCarthy was there for an interview today. Chris Shula is on the table.
Anthony Weaver's on Friday, I think.
Weaver, and then I think there's somebody else, but I can't remember who.
I don't remember his name. It's the defensive coordinator for the Panthers. Who that must be we know something special about this guy, because I looked up the stats and the fact that it's the Panthers, and I'm not all that sure what's going on with that. But I didn't know, like you said before, I didn't know Mike Tomlin beforehand, so there's a reason I'm not in front offices.
Yeah. They would have an excellent dining program if we had CPAT for the head coach. It would be like buffets for every team meeting or something. So maybe we'll pass on him. I know Rowan's telling me tonight. Look, he's like rage baiting me in the chat. We are not going to talk about playing over Alex Highsmith. They should both be on the field at the same time. 3 linebacker sets.
And when we get into the player impact of this whole thing, we'll get to what that might look like. But what I'm really looking for in a head coach, without going into the specifics of each person yet, I just want someone who won't do what Tomlin did and will let delegation happen. Because while I respect Tomlin's method and it worked without a losing season for as long as it did, got a Super Bowl, all that, I want someone who is going to come in and regardless if you're defensive minded or offensive minded, you're going to let their coordinators do their job. And you're going to bring in people who are smarter than you at certain things. That's the number one thing I want. I want someone who's going to bring someone in that is willing to challenge them.
Yeah.
Because whether or not it just slowly eked away over time, but that's not the Tomlin over the last few years that I saw.
Yeah.
So whether it's Chris Shula or Anthony Weaver or anyone else, hopefully it's not McCarthy, but that's what I want. Just trust your offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, let them do their job. I don't think that's a big ask, but in Pittsburgh that really is lately.
It kind of is. And I'm right there with you. You know, I was thinking about it a lot today. Like I tried to take out like a specific name or a person, you know what I mean? And just think about like what would be an ideal character or ideal type person for this job. And I was thinking about how different football used to be back in like the Chuck Noll era. How did Bentley find the one toy in our house that still has a squeaker in it? Usually they get like immediately surgically removed. So I was thinking about that. And back then, coaches were kind of cut from like the same cloth, right? There's a lot of similarities in football and what most coaches were like. But as time has progressed, like that's changed a lot. And so, you know, the Mike Tomlin era, right before Mike Tomlin started this kind of like more innovative type coaches and relying on these coordinators and this like big picture thing. And to me, I think that they need to find somebody that can respect the history of the Steelers, right? We can't have somebody come in and be, Mr. Fancy Pants in Pittsburgh. I just don't think it'll go over well with the fan base. And they need to really look at trying to kind of find somebody that can like respect the whole thing. And then plus two, I think they need to find somebody like you said who's willing to delegate. Like we need like football anymore, you need that leader, like that guy to lead the whole team. And then you've got to trust your coordinators to really be like in the trenches with their particular side of the ball. And I do think that's something from outward appearances that Tomlin struggled with.
He definitely did. And this is why whenever I look at the coaches in general, I'm really looking at the Kubiak from San Francisco, and then pretty much anyone from the Rams, just because those two organizations are really good at setting up offensive and defensive schemes and trusting them, and then kind of letting them do their job. And there seems to be a better flow of communication within those coaching and assistant staffs, that everyone understands their role. And I would feel like there would be more sense of preparedness every single week. It would be more routine. And I don't know, going into a rebuild, the more routine and stability you can bring to it, the better you're going to be.
Yeah. Look, I'll take it. I'm down. I'm down to give it a try, right? I can't do any worse than Randy Fichtner did, right? I mean, I got to be able to at least do that.
That's a good point. Although, as long as I'm not near a front office, we have proved that I shouldn't be nowhere near that.
Not a GM. All right. So out of these candidates that are rolling around, I mean, is there somebody that you kind of think like, ooh, I'd like him?
Well, of course, the one that I agree with you and everyone else seems to like, if we got Chris Shula, that would be such a. It's not safe. It's actually, it would be such a big positive, because I can't see too much of a downside where even if it doesn't work out great, he could delegate his weaknesses to the guys around him. And I think he's seen enough from the organization he's been in to bring someone else. But I like Kubiak from San Francisco for a reason, that San Francisco runs on schemes. It's whoever we have on that sideline is going to come in. You're going to fill a role. You're going to play, and we're going to make it work that way. And I don't think we've seen that in Pittsburgh for a while. And most likely bring in a lot of new people, new quarterback. Depending on what happens on defense, a lot of turnover in that place. You're going to want someone who can bring anybody in and say, okay, good, here's what you do, go into my scheme, and then be able to be part of the draft process and say, listen, here's what my scheme does. I need a guy that does this, 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 and this, and then they find him. It seems very, very simplistic and straightforward, but for some reason, there seems to be some disconnect in Pittsburgh ever since Ben retired, on bringing in the person that we needed to go with the scheme we needed, and they never lined up. So that's what I'm hoping for. I would love if we got that for San Francisco. For me, I'm grateful that he's even willing to come in and interview, because it's a chore from a scheme guy to come into Pittsburgh and help with. I don't care what Rooney says. I saw Relic talking. This is a rebuild. Anyone out there who thinks this is not a rebuild does not understand what a rebuild is.
I don't know though, because see, I don't think the Steelers will let it be a full rebuild. I think it's one of the things that makes it hard for us is that we don't ever really totally clean house, right? So, to me, I think it's one of the things that, with the always winning seasons, and we're always pick 20 and 21, right? You never get the elite guy in the draft, the top 10 player or whatever. We never get those. And I'm not saying I want us to have losing seasons for draft picks, right? But it is just a part of what happens to us. And I think that the Steelers and Mike Tomlin in particular have done a really good job stringing together 19 winning seasons when you never got to have like a really high draft pick, the entire time. And so to me, I always thought that spoke highly of the organization, but it also became frustrating because then you can't afford to hire somebody like Matt Canada to come in and do his like bullshit vanilla oatmeal offense and run it. Do you know what I mean? Because even if you start out the year strong, it didn't take long for teams to catch on to what we were doing, and then we're losing games. Then you get to the playoffs and you're running the same crappy offense you ran against mediocre teams all year. Now you're going to run it against the best of the best in the playoffs, and you're going to always, we're going to get slaughtered like we have every year. And Relic said perfect timing. He said a crazy pass from Josh Allen where he told his running back to chip block and then ran up the right side. I mean, it was wild. Nobody was defending it. And he said, give me that kind of play calling. And that's the thing. That's what we need, right? So like whoever this head coach is, and I love the idea of, and I had to do some research on Shula because I was concerned, like, are we just like, is this just his name? Like his dad was such a great coach that, we're all wowed by the name. Or is he like truly like a Shanahan where the son is, as good, if not better? So I like the idea of him coming. I like that he could possibly bring that Shilhas, whatever his last name is, the guy that works in their offensive unit. You know what I mean? So bring somebody more innovative like that. I should have looked up how to pronounce that guy's name, so I apologize. And something that's a little bit more innovative to get that offense going and kicked into high gear. Because I agree with you. I think this may not be an intentional rebuild, but I do think it's going to definitely have an impact on personnel across the board. You mentioned player impact a minute ago. I mean, what do you think the player impact from this is going to be?
That is where I think this fan base is going to implode, because I genuinely don't think, even me right now, I'm going through my head the amount of players that didn't ever look elsewhere, or when they did, immediately went back because Tomlin was there. Regardless of the outside noise, regardless of what anyone thinks about or winning, losing season, all that, there are players, and I mean, you don't react the way you do. It sounds like TJ Watt was almost just unable to accept the reality of what happened. You don't react that way to a guy that doesn't have a significant impact on you. And the name I keep coming back to is TJ. It's the reason I'm wearing this jersey tonight, is because I'm starting to get myself to a place where I'm saying, if there ever was a time where the unthinkable might happen, this is the time. I'm preparing myself for there's a chance where TJ might not be here for this next rebuild. And if he doesn't want to be, that's perfectly fair.
You know what I mean? The man went to the Super Bowl, right? And who can blame him? So he might look, he might ask for a trade to go somewhere else. Do you agree with Relic that Danny Smith was the only coach that should have stayed?
I think Danny Smith was more fun to watch rather than the production. I think Chris Boswell is Chris Boswell. And the thing that I will give him credit for is Danny Smith did something that a lot of people wouldn't do, which is said, fine, do what you'd like to do. Practice how you want to, set your schedule as long as it works for you. And now we have Boz. But I saw a good tweet today.
Players, like, to me, like, that really elevates your coach. Like, we have Miles Killebrew, you mentioned Boswell, right? Christian Kuntz. You've got these guys on special teams that are so good. Skoranek.
And I genuinely trust that whatever head coach we bring in is going to have a really good idea about another person that can come in and fill that gap. Now, it won't be Danny Smith. Danny Smith was a fan favorite. That's different. It wasn't. I think if Danny Smith wasn't as likable as he was, didn't have the bubblegum thing, and the players didn't react to him as much, maybe we would have looked at the punting a little closer, because that is a part of it. I mean, we look at the field goals. Steelers had atrocious punting for years. We've had atrocious punting.
Yeah.
And we kind of let him off the hook because he was. So I love Danny Smith. I don't like saying a bad word about him, but I have a hard time feeling that that's going to be the linchpin where everything goes wrong because Danny Smith left. I'm sad about it, but that's not going to be the biggest thing on anyone's mind in a month and a half, 2 months.
Do you think that they should wipe this? I mean, they will most likely. Very rarely do all the coordinators stay unless you have somebody incredible. So they're going to go. Do you think that's the right thing to do, or do you think they should work to keep either one of those guys? Austin.
Goodness gracious, I got on a Relic's bad side quick.
Smith.
I would expect I would expect both coordinators gone.
Yeah.
And then
Would you
I would
want to
expect a lot of
keep either one
people.
of them? Would you want
No,
either one to say? Yeah, no, me neither.
no, I think Terrell Austin should have been gone a bit ago. I think genuinely it wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault. Dude was over his head. What he was handed such a incredibly pricey machine,
Yeah,
and he didn't really know all that much what to do with it.
yeah,
And so a lot of these guys, same thing. It was Tomlin's team, Tomlin's coaching staff, Tomlin's all of that. That's why I'm not going to be surprised at all when it's gone. A lot
yeah.
of that. I think I'm very weirdly enough a weird name. I'm interested. I want to see what happens with Roman Wilson. I am fascinated to see what happens with him because if all of a sudden he breaks out and becomes this amazing guy, where I'm gonna be like, oh, okay. Did you just not like him?
Yeah.
What's going? So things like that is what I'm interested to see. But really quick about the coaches and being able to scheme and all that. Something stood out to me about what. Oh, 1 second, Alexa, stop. It's realized my Alexa turned on. Christmas music just was in the background when Darnell Washington got hurt. And no matter what we did, we couldn't figure out a way to replace him on the offense.
Yeah.
My eyebrows went through the roof. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, that shouldn't be. I mean, you saw at the end of the Houston game that we couldn't block anybody for anything. And
Right.
I saw people say, oh, well, Washington was hurt. I'm like, oh, okay. I get that.
You're right, but I mean, it's that next man up, right? Tomlin talks about it all the time, the next man up mentality. So maybe you don't run some specific play that was specific to Washington where he displays his unique talents, but you should be able to have somebody else who can come in and freaking block. Like that's football 101. And I don't know, to me, it was just ridiculous how much things fell apart because every other year we shit the bed in the playoffs. Recent years, well, so and so was hurt, you know what I mean, or whatever. It was one year it was the shit with Mason and Kenny and a different quarterback and all that stuff, and then one year TJ was hurt. You know what I mean? So every year it's something like that. And this year we went into the playoffs with pretty healthy, like shockingly healthy Aaron Rodgers. Do you know what I mean? Like I expected him to be broken by the wild card weekend. So he was healthy. Our offensive line stayed pretty healthy. TJ Watt was healthy-ish, after his lung thing. You know what I mean? So I couldn't understand like how we have pretty much everybody healthy and then you still can't figure out how to make adjustments on the fly or plan differently for the Texans than you did for the Ravens, who you also didn't do well. I mean, I just don't get it.
I'll go back a while in time to, and I think we talked about this before. I can't remember what year it was, but the year when all of a sudden out of nowhere, Tom was like, I know, empty set at the goal line. And then stuff got weird from that point. And I don't know why. I think it worked so well early on that people stopped questioning certain decisions Tomlin's made. But he was like, everyone thinks I'm going to go to the right. If I go to the right, it's going to work 90% of the time and veer left.
Right.
And for no reason. We saw it so many times this season where I'm like, why'd you do that? Why on earth? And you're right. There was no excuses left. Nothing. I kept saying, how could we be healthier? Every excuse was taken away. So it was just
I didn't even expect us to win, but I didn't expect us to get like humiliated either. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yep.
I mean, even though, like you said, it was such a weird game, it felt like you were in it. They gave you hope, you know what I mean? But you also, in the back of your mind, knew like we aren't really playing well enough to win unless they continue to throw interceptions and fuck up, right? Like if they start to play well, we're screwed. Like you kind of know that the whole time you're watching. And then, just like praying that they don't get their act together.
And there had to be some point of that game where the other defenders who have been in the games like this with Pittsburgh for a while just looked at each other and be like, again?
Right.
Like, if we don't score ourselves, we're going to lose this game. Because I take everything, put it aside. What a waste of a defensive performance.
Oh, my God.
I don't care how bad you're. That was such a good and gutsy defensive performance in the face of, again, the offense doing nothing.
Yeah.
And by the end, Aaron Rodgers was all over the place, had no idea what was happening. Troy Fatanu was a turnstile. It was, and I just feel bad because the final score made it look like the defense just imploded, and there were 2 defensive touchdowns.
Yeah, no,
So
it was not. It was not them. I mean, but it's just like what happened to us in past years. You can only keep them on the field for so long. Do you know what I mean? Getting beat up the entire game, and then expect them to be able to hold up. I mean, at some point by the fourth quarter, they're just exhausted.
and that is I just even if he's not a defensive minded coach,
Yeah,
I feel very good about having a new head coach come in and be able to bring someone in who is overjoyed at, even if we lose some pieces. Look at
right.
the defense he gets. Nick Herbig, Derek Harmon, Joey Porter Jr. You get these guys. Any guy who is worth his salt as a defensive coordinator or coach in this league is going to do something with this defense.
Yeah.
Even if it's not what we all hope it might be, it's going to be better than what we've seen. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I know every player wants to go to like a Super Bowl contender, when they ask to leave or they want to go somewhere new. And look, everybody can't go to a Super Bowl contender. I'm kind of hoping that there is some attraction to coming to Pittsburgh because they're creating something new there, and that could be exciting to be a part of. Maybe they feel like that'll give them a new opportunity or something like that. I want to talk about quarterback situation for next year, but pivot for a second. Relic brought this up, and I had this on our list to talk about. Did you see the Najee Harris interview where he talked about how Mike T told him not to re-sign with the Steelers? And you had sent me the thing, and his quote was, he said, "Najee, I always talk to you not as if you were a player, but as if you're my son." He was like, "You was my son, I would tell you not to come back here." I was like, "All right, bet." Wasn't no hard feelings or nothing like that. Did that surprise you?
Yeah, it really did.
True? Do you think it's true? Do you think Tomlin told him that, like, just pulled him aside and was like the casual, "You should get out of town"?
I don't think it was as casual as that. I think they had because I know I went back and looking for this specific interview. I stumbled upon a lot of other interviews with Najee about Tomlin, and it was just gushing about how good of a players coach he was. All this, so
Right.
some point before the decision was made, they had to have sat down together, and that's probably when he said it. And I know a lot of fans were really outraged and all this, but that's why was called a players coach, because at that time he looked at
What's there to be outraged
he
about?
had
They
it.
all wanted to get rid of Najee. What's there to be outraged about?
Yeah, well, because this fan base likes to have dichotomy exist within themselves and have no one call them out on it. So that,
Right.
and if
With few exceptions, I mean, there's not very many players I wish ill will on. Even the ones who come and really underperform for us, I don't wish ill will on them, right? Like, maybe another team is a better fit. Not everybody is a perfect fit. Just because you can do it in one place doesn't mean you can do it in another, right? There's a lot of reasons for that. And so, I always kind of hoped that, just like I hope the guys we get, from other teams are better for us than they were wherever they come from. I hope if you go somewhere else, I hope for Naj to be successful out in California. It was unfortunate. He had kind of a screwy season with the firework and then the injury. So, it didn't work out for him. But you have to imagine that there was some kind of like, I know we're moving on from you. And so I'm going to go ahead and let you know, if you have an opportunity to start looking at teams or thinking about it or whatever, right? Like, I don't get what the big, I couldn't believe people were angry.
I wasn't, when it came to Najee, people simply like finding reasons to be angry with him.
And Tomlin. So put the two together, it's like two guys that half the fan base hates.
But not only that, let's just say, for all the people like, "Oh, I can't believe Najee said this." Najee could have said this at any point before, and he respectfully waited till Tomlin was gone.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he did. I want everyone to know I have no insider information. I'm just thinking he probably called or texted him, said, "Hey, coach, you mind if I say this?" and then said it. Right. Or they had talked about it before, and he's like, Tomlin probably joked. He's like, "Hey, why not out the door? I don't care what the fuck you said."
Right. But even if it was none of that and he just said it, right? Like, there was nothing even disrespectful about saying it. I mean, once Tomlin left the Steelers, it's not like you're giving out state secrets or anything. So who cares?
Yeah, like if the chicken run thing keeps coming back, just the panic in this fan. Despite the fact they got everything they wanted, they got all the Christmas presents they asked for. and they're looking through the window at the neighbor's house already.
Right. Right. Already complaining and pointing, and we don't even know what's going to happen yet. So I have to say, like, when I first heard that Tomlin was leaving, I sort of thought this might happen. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't sure how, but it just felt like in my gut, if we get blown out in the playoffs again this year, I mean, something has to change. And Tomlin is not stupid, right? Like, I believe he'd fall on, I just think he's that kind of guy that he'd fall on his sword, for the team and the organization, because it really matters to him. Do you know what I mean? He's not going to be the guy that's going to go out and try to burn bridges on his way or whatever. And so I was upset, not upset he's gone, just, he's just been like a part of your life for 2 decades, right? It feels weird to like move forward without him.
That's true.
And then I started to think about when I worked in education and I used to counsel my teachers and the administrators I trained that they should move on in 5 to 7 years. That's the ideal time frame. So unless you get like a significant promotion, if you want to continue to grow as an employee, 5 to 7 years, you need to go to a new school to promote growth. And I'm like, man, I never even thought about it like in terms of that. So is there an opportunity here for us as a franchise to grow and get even better? And maybe likewise a chance for Tomlin to grow and get better wherever he goes, right? So I'm going to look at it like from that positive perspective. Like, this is an opportunity for this franchise. This is the 4th coach that they'll have had in more than 50 years. It's pretty hard to complain about that. And so, just be excited to embrace this new opportunity and see who they get and kind of just trust in the process, because frankly, it's not like you and I have a say like either way, right? So I think about all that, but then it's Relic's over me and my positivity today.
Podcast do you think you're watching, Relic?
Right. I mean, it's like he's never met me. I'm with you. I was on Burn It Down the other day. Oh my gosh. It is not going to be 0-17. Not a chance. We're going to go 9-8 and losing the wild card round again. That's we were forever.
If that happens,
right.
That would,
oh my God, the fan base, can you imagine? What's going to be bad is, let's say this is a terrible season with growing pains. Not that this is a bad coach or a bad fit. Let's just say it's that year, rebuilding, whatever you want to call it, where we hit the bumps in the road and then we don't do well this year and we win 3 games or something. I mean, what are they going to do? Fan base is going to lose their mind.
They are. And actually, there's a guy who could get a wonderful opportunity in his life that could just fuck up this rebuild. And I hope Andy Weidel has all the success in the world later.
Yeah.
For anyone who hasn't heard, Andy Weidel has interviewed or is going to interview for the GM position at the Falcons. And if you need to go back any further, Omar Khan brought him over from the Eagles to make sure that he could bring that grit to it. We can't lose him now. That more than anything else, when I saw that, all my attention focused on that. He builds the draft board. He sees things in a different way. I know Khan respects him enough that if Khan says something and it's not the idea, then Weidel can say, no, we can't do that. And there'll be respect there. So if that happens and Weidel does go, put another 2 to 3 years on this, on the time frame I have. That's the damage I'm thinking about.
Yeah, that would be a big loss. He says Mike McCarthy is the one who can fuck this up. I can't even disagree. Like, I sounds like, oh, he's too old. Like, he can't. And look, I'm not an ageist. He's not that old. He's 62 or something. I'm not saying he's like literally old, but to be like a Steelers coach, like, dude, we're expecting you to stay for 20 years. So you can't come at 62. I am ignoring all of Relic's trade Highsmith comments. I will not.
I can see this.
This is like the third one, and I'm not going to pay any attention to them. So let's talk about quarterback a little bit. Yes. So the season ended as we were doing our last shows before everything kind of imploded for us personally. We talked about like, well, wow, maybe Rodgers might want to run it back one more year with us, right? Like if we don't win this game against the Texans, because at that time we didn't know. Or even if we do, maybe he'll feel like there's enough here that he wants to come back. The assumption from most of the local pundits is that he's not going to return to Pittsburgh with Tomlin gone. Like Tomlin was a big draw for him. He's not here to rebuild a new, a franchise all over again or whatever. So he probably won't come back. I mean, I think that makes sense. I can't imagine him coming back now. But so what do you think that they'll do about quarterback? I saw some mock drafts that made me want to burn my house down about the Steelers drafting Ty Simpson with that first round pick. I mean, it felt like Kenny Pickett all over again. And I'm an Alabama fan, and I don't want Ty Simpson in our current situation. Do you know what I mean? It'd be different if we had a good quarterback, a solid veteran who could help mentor and guide him. But we don't, and he's not ready to play in the pros. We've already got Will Howard, who I don't think is ready to play in the pros. So what do you think is going to happen at quarterback? And who would want to come play for a team that just got a brand new head coach?
Well, I definitely think we're going to draft somebody.
You think that somebody will start? Because who would we get that would be better than Ty Simpson?
All of that, I genuinely think, depends on who that coach is, or who that offensive coordinator is, depending on who the head coach is. Because it just feels like I can't imagine them getting that foundational part of this wrong, where you bring in a head coach and you let them have some autonomy as to building the staff and the players from that point on. So that's where it's all going to come down to what type of quarterback is going to fit those schemes. And there could be someone we're not even thinking of, or maybe the coach we bring in has a high school or college connection in the past to a player that all those things could happen. But whenever I think of quarterback, I'm thinking of actually what Ben Roethlisberger said, that a lot of people are thinking that I saw things like Ben Roethlisberger's beer must have been laced or all this, because he said the Steelers should not think seriously about bringing a quarterback in for 3 to 5 years.
Well, you got to have somebody who's going to play quarterback, not Mason.
He said it. No, pretty much he said it doesn't matter. He said bring a body there, because he was comparing it to him. He's like, I came into a ready-made team. He's like, I came into a team that I didn't have to be a superhero. I had some big moments, but I didn't have to be that. Now, I don't agree with this thing, because I don't think that there's enough patience in the current league for us to have the same coaching staff for 3 to 5 years through that kind of a rebuild anymore. But that kind of idea, it intrigues me about that. But see, I can see us.
When Ben came to the team, it was like an accidental. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like we were intentionally like, we're going to build up all these pieces and then go get our quarterback. I mean, it didn't seem like from the outside that was a perspective, right? We were trying to run it with Tommy Maddox and everybody else. To me, it feels like we are always the team that is like, we can win a Super Bowl this year. Let's get the best possible person we can get at this position without a huge reach, right? I don't think they're going to sell the farm to move up for one of these shitty quarterbacks this year. There's nobody worth doing that for. I don't even know that I think Fernando Mendoza is like who I would sell the farm to go up and get, right? So, I mean, they might draft a quarterback, but then you've just got 2 Will Howards for all practical purposes on your roster, right? And no like real QB1. I mean, maybe we'll consider doing some kind of a low cost trade for a guy like Mac Jones, who really excelled out in San Francisco this year when Brock Purdy was hurt. He's looking to be a starter somewhere. He didn't work out at the Patriots. Maybe somebody like him, I was saying like we need to find our own like Sam Darnold or somebody. So it doesn't have to be like a Tom Brady level quarterback. Like, I don't think we need to get that guy. We need like a Jalen Hurts, like somebody that's good enough to come in and manage the offense, manage the game, keep us competitive while we figure out the other moving pieces. It seems like that's what we tend to do.
Yeah, and I think with this, I love that he says the Mason thing.
He's so
I think
right though. I mean, he's so right. I'm sorry.
yes,
Like I love Mason too as a human, but at some point you just got to say like this guy isn't Charlie Batch. Like he ain't it. You know what I mean?
he's not. Now, if Mason does touch the field, it definitely tells you about their
Yeah.
approach to the season, and things have changed in Pittsburgh more than we
Yeah.
think. But
Speaking of Charlie Batch, did you see somebody tweeted out about CJ Stroud? They said CJ
yes,
Stroud is just Charlie Batch with dreadlocks. He retweeted. He's like, dude, how am I catching strays on this? Like, leave Charlie
and
Batch's name out of your mouth.
yeah, exactly. And for Charlie Batch to me is the absolute definition of what you need in a backup quarterback, so everyone can calm down about that.
Yeah. All right,
I
well,
think
if not the Mac attack, then you tell like who do you think would be somebody like realistic, right? We're not getting Patrick Mahomes or something. So realistic, who is somebody out there you think the Steelers could get? What do you think makes sense? Zac, what do you
that's the
think
thing. I don't know if there's a correct answer right here. And for one reason, I think for the first time in a very, very long time, we're going to get to see what a real quarterback competition looks like. To bring a group of guys in, not the ragtag like we used to have, like, oh, I guess this guy and this guy. People that come in ready for the scheme and offense that we're ready to run. And we say, okay, I have a feeling Howard will be inherited in. I think Mason Rudolph will once again go off and believe he could be a starting quarterback somewhere. So it's going to be probably a young two guys with some other experienced guy, all not picked, like you said, not because they're Tom Brady, not because they're the next guy, but because they can adequately and efficiently run this offense. And at the beginning of this point, that's all you can ask for. And then you go from there.
I
so
mean,
I just
so few quarterbacks. I mean, like it's a really like I can't remember the last time it felt like there was so few guys to realistically choose from. Do you know what I mean? You got a huge group of like Jameis Winston level players, and then like two or three like elite players, and then like not very many in the middle of that sandwich. I mean, there's just not where those like consistent guys that are what I mean? They don't have to be the like you said, the savior, but they've got to be like good enough to be able to hold it together for a game. And I mean, just don't have those guys all over.
That was the most disappointing thing about this season. We talked about it going into the year. It was like, we don't need Mahomes. We just need 7 to 10 points in those games. That's all. And we didn't get it in those against Cleveland. We didn't get it against Houston. It wasn't a lot.
With Rodgers, we had it. So like what went like that's what I don't get. I would love to like really pick his brain and just understand like what went wrong there. Like how does that happen? Is it just like a brain fart? You know what I mean? You just have a bad game. I'm sure that happens to everybody, including an Aaron Rodgers. Or is it offensive scheming? Is it, I mean, Cleveland is a really good defense. Is it we weren't ready for their defense? Like, you know what I mean? What went wrong?
I think it was entirely offensive scheming.
Yeah.
I think Houston, my God, watching that defense, I mean, I heard about it, but seeing it in person, like against us, they're so fucking good.
They are.
And it terrified me to the point they are. And at some point, it didn't click in Arthur Smith's mind, because everything should have been short, should have been shift pressure this way, manipulate the bread. And we just went into it playing like they weren't any other defense. And when we didn't have an answer for it and we didn't adjust, in Aaron Rodgers' head, he's like, oh, savior mode. And he's not savior anymore. He's not. And everything broke down. And it wasn't the first time in the season we had seen that, where there was a disconnect between what the offense needed to do and what Rodgers wanted to do.
And it just didn't click. Never made those like, we didn't have that like next level offense and defense to go into the playoffs. Like it just felt like we went in running the same crap we ran like week 1 and 2 or something. Like it just didn't feel, it feels like those teams that are really good that get to the postseason, their play calling progressively gets like better and better. Do you know what I mean? Or trickier, whatever you want to call it as the year goes on. They hold some things in their back pocket for when they need them. It never felt like we had like a can of whoop ass in our back pocket that we could like occasionally open and try something new, because you would think, oh, we're definitely losing this game if we don't do something, and we'd come out and I mean, it's just like, it's crazy to me. Relic says, realistically, I think the best case is draft round 1, Denzel Boston wide receiver. Then we get round 2, Ty Simpson or Nussmeier, free agency or before trade for Kirk Cousins, 2-year contract. Kirk came cheap. I mean, that wouldn't be the worst thing ever.
Like I said, all until I know anything at all about the kind of coaching staff, everything is just going to be grasping at straws. And I just, unless it's like the 4th round or something, I don't want to hear Ty Simpson's name.
Right.
I've watched enough with him. I'm like, no, don't. Alabama should not be the only requirement for being a quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah. I like this if Cousins is willing to use him as kind of a mentor / bridge. So like he says, whether it's Howard, Simpson, Nussmeier don't work, then you can draft somebody in 7 or 8. I like that idea a lot. So whether it's Kirk Cousins or it's somebody else, you know what I mean? The idea is obviously to develop this young talent. So we've already got Will Howard, and we've already seen some things from him during this 1 year to get a sense of, does he really even have the fundamentals to be able to get there? Is this a guy we can get there or not? And then, maybe make a decision about whether you want to spend the draft capital in round 2 or 3 getting somebody like a Ty Simpson. I think it's going to be tricky because there's not very many quarterbacks, and people always need quarterbacks. And they're going to think, well, they got Tom Brady in the 6th round, could roll our dice on this guy, and it could pay out. And I don't know that he'll make it to us if we wait to the 2nd round.
I agree.
But I just feel like he's a total reach in round 1, and I don't want him. I mean, same conversation we had about Shedeur Sanders, same conversation I had about Kenny Pickett. It's a reach, and I don't like reaching. We have other needs.
Oh, 100%. It's the guys that are gonna come in. I'm frustrated with people who just believe that if you're a 1st round quarterback, you're automatically there's something different about you. I genuinely think what's going to happen is there's going to be some player. I don't know who it is. Is it going to be Patrick Queen? Is it going to be TJ Watt? Or is it going to be who's going to be moved for more draft capital?
Yeah.
And we're going to, not 1st round, but we're going to find that 2nd round guy who we're like, you know what? A little bit of work. He can be our guy. Not a lot of people are talking about him. And then I don't often 100% unequivocally agree with Relic. I do today.
Yeah.
Wide receiver. That should be just paste it over every wall in the draft. Should be wide receiver round 1, because
well, he did say that in his. He said round 1 should be Denzel Boston.
I agree with him on that.
So yeah, I agree 100% with the wide receiver. I think it almost has to be like we have to have somebody. I mean, we've seen for 2 years in a row, like that was like our biggest issue. It just has to happen. And I like the idea of a rookie because hopefully we keep DK Metcalf. Do you know what I mean? And so he's there to provide that balance that we haven't had in the past. So hopefully that, that works out that way.
Oh, 100%. It's we need more of a margin for error. For too long, it's been where one little thing happens and everything goes off the rails, whether it's one penalty with a drive or I don't know what it was. That drop by DK Metcalf deflated the entire team. I don't know what happened. We couldn't bounce back after that. And I don't know if that spooked Arthur Smith. And I don't know what it was, but that's where
when you're talking about it's the pros. It's the pros. Yes. Plaxico Burress dropped that ball that Ben sent him in the end zone in the Super Bowl. He dropped that ball. And he was so upset. He talks about it all the time. And he was like, Ben's never going to throw it to me again in the corner of the end zone. We practiced this 50 million times and he's not going to trust me. And Ben went right back to him. And it's like one of the most iconic plays in Super Bowl history, right? Come on, Mike Tomlin. We don't live in our fears. What am I going to do without Mike Tomlinisms? I'm going to be really, really sad.
Well, the good thing is he provided us with more than enough to have like a daily calendar of them, and I can't wait for the first person to have that where every day we get a new Tomlinism. But it's gonna be different. People are gonna they're going to you don't have what you don't know what you got till it's gone is going to be 100% true in the situation in the most interesting and unexpected ways. It really is just going to pop up where people are going to be like, oh well, that was a boring coaching presser. Like yeah, coaching pressers are boring when you don't have Tomlinisms. So simple things like that. But the one thing that I will say is a big step forward, and I can't see too many ways, even if we get McCarthy, that it takes a step back for this team. Being able to develop players has to be one of the primary focuses of this organization right now, because we have slipped on that. I want to say across the last decade, where if we don't get someone who is ready-made, we're not going to be able to help them overcome whatever they need to get to where they need to go to become great. And I need that. I desperately need that. And that's where the quarterback comes in. If you bring in, that's why the quarterbacks we brought in didn't work. I will never know if Kenny Pickett could have been an adequate quarterback. He might have been a okay scheme-based quarterback. We'll never know. And so that cannot continue.
No, I agree with you. And I think that goes back to that same coordinator thing. Do you know what I mean? About finding those solid coordinators, because you're really relying on those guys to do that work for you. But you can't, whatever it is, you're worried that they're not going to stay very long if they're too good, or you're worried they're gunning for your job, or whatever the hell the nonsense is that the fans spew about why he doesn't get good coordinators. You can't live in that place, right? The business is winning Super Bowls. And so I don't care if you turn over coordinators every single year, if you're getting to the position where you have a shot at a Super Bowl. That's what it's all about, right? And that to me is kind of what's lacking, because you see it on some of these other teams right now that are so competitive. Every year they're losing their coordinators, at least one of them, and they're having that constant turnover, and they still manage to find a new innovative young coach who either move up into that role or bring into that role, who buys into that vision that the team has, that head coach has, and is able to translate that into something real going forward. And you're forgetting that Kenny Pickett was a Super Bowl champ.
Oh, that's right. How could I forget
He's
that?
got the ring to prove it, Zach, so you can't even say anything about him. But it does give you some insight into just how spoiled we were with Ben. Do you know what I mean? I thought about that, again today. It pops into my mind every once in a while that, we were just to not have to think about who's our quarterback. Do you know what I mean? You can say what you want about him. You can, got injured at the end. He got old. He stayed too long. Whatever it was, for all those years, you didn't have to wake up, in the off season and wonder who's going to be our quarterback this year, and is he going to be good enough, or is he going to be capable enough? You just be able to sleep soundly every night knowing you had Ben. And I mean, the struggle is real.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting when, like, a couple months from now, we talk about the roster that we're going to be putting together. How new is this roster going to be? The amount of there's just so much new that while I am excited for it, there's so much trepidation, because are we going to be the New England Patriots, where everything goes south and then they're willing to fire a coach after 1 year to go find the right coach and bring him in, and all of a sudden they're where they are? Or are we going to be the Browns or the Lions? Because people are all on the Lions right now. I have not forgotten the paper bags on the heads 0-16 Lions. I haven't forgot the jokes about, death taxes and the Lions drafting a wide receiver in the first round. Yeah. I remember those years. So, and that was a long time of being trapped in that. So
yeah,
I'm just very glad that at no point, especially the podcast as a whole, did we ever say anything other than be careful what you wish for. Be very careful what you wish for, because I don't know. It could be a very long time. I've experienced, I think Cowers, a 6-10 season once, and the city of Pittsburgh just felt deflated. That was the 1 year I was actually in Pennsylvania for it. I don't know if this team can handle the kind of losing it takes to get the kind of quarterback everyone's talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. it's just not that easy, right? And I've talked about it. I won't go into that soapbox rant again, but I lived in DC. I was there the years after they lost the Super Bowl or won the Super Bowls when their teams fell apart and ownership was bad, and every year it was a new coach and a new quarterback. And it's always been one of my like fears, like, oh, Zach, we're like those other peasants in the NFL now. Do you know what I mean? Like, are we just like the other peasant teams, like poverty franchises, where we're like, here we are turning over our entire staff, our quarterback, our coach, right? I mean, our coordinators, like, thank God we kept our GM because I mean, that would have been more than I could handle in having to like go hunt out all new people and then pray it comes into like something good because winning seasons aren't good enough for this franchise, right? You got to win playoff games and then really Super Bowls. And so, yeah, I mean, to me, it's a slippery slope. Like I'm all about change. I'm excited for the change. I'm excited to see what happens, but Relic knows a guy who could make the Steelers great
Lord.
again. It's got to be CPAT.
I was about to say there's not many other people I can think that it's going to be. But one thing that Relic did say earlier is to get rid of all the wide receivers except for Metcalf. And while I understand the sentiment, it wasn't the receivers; it was the person using them.
Yeah.
Arthur Smith calling consistent long bombs to a guy who is 5'9" does not make sense when you have DK Metcalf on the other side.
You also gotta have like a variety of wide receiver, right? We can't have three guys that look like the same person that do the same thing.
Yeah, it feels like a little while ago, somewhere in the offense, they're all like, well, it's gonna be one guy and then a bunch of other people. That's gonna be our room. And everyone's like, okay, break. And they just never went back to it. The memo got lost to have a meeting again.
Yeah. Right. I think this is what the Eagles have done really well. Do you know what I mean? I've said it before. Jalen Hurts is not, some phenomenal quarterback, right? He's surrounded by a really good and solid unit that in an offensive scheme that's built to play to his strengths and minimize his weaknesses. They've done that well there. Oh, our Dark Lord and Savior. Matt, no, sorry. Come on now. We cannot bring him back. We like he's disappeared. I believe he's changed his name and he's like chopping the tops off coconuts and like Guadalajara now, like hiding from people. You find him down there in like one of those straw hats with the machete. Because he's not.
It's interesting that he brought up Matt Canada. Because as LeeAnn knows, and everyone, if you're watching the show, I really like to step back and look at things from a 5, 10, 15-year perspective and just go nuts with it. Looking at the Matt Canada was the first domino to fall where the franchise was like, we need to shift something. Not everything, just something. And they fired a coach. Next, the Kenny Pickett thing. First round quarterback on there. And then it was spending that much money bringing DK Metcalf in. And then it was this. There's things in this franchise that have little by little said, we need to catch up. We can't do this all at once, but little bit at a time. Let's get, and that's why I have a lot of people might not have a huge amount of faith in this team to get this rebuild done. Whatever, if it's a Pittsburgh rebuild, like this California sober Pittsburgh rebuild going to happen, I think slowly this franchise has been preparing themselves for something bigger than just firing a coordinator or getting rid of a quarterback. And I'm hoping I'm right on that and that they're ready for what this journey is. This is not an easy journey, especially for a team that has as the fan base we do.
Yeah. But maybe this look, I'm going to look on the bright side, right? Maybe this invigorates them. Maybe the players get excited and get behind it, right? Maybe they're excited to be a part of something new there. I hope that whoever the coaches that they hire is somebody that intrigues the players that, they want to stay or want to come and join us. Do you know what I mean? That, ooh, I'd like to play for that guy. Do you know what I mean? Which is sort of one reason why I don't know that I really wanted to be McCarthy, because I don't know that there's like a long line out the door of people dying. I mean, you know what he brings to the table, right? You've seen him. If you look at a Chris Shula, you might think like, oh, this could be the next Kyle Shanahan thing, and I want to be a part of that. If it's McCarthy, you're like, I already know what he does.
And if you look at most things that I've read about McCarthy, the first 2 paragraphs are about how he's a Pittsburgh guy. I'm not asking about his background. Yes, great, cool. He's a Pittsburgh guy. Kenny Pickett was a Pittsburgh guy. let's stop bringing people in because they're Pittsburgh guys.
Right.
I don't.
That is almost as bad as the people that are posting pictures of Ben Roethlisberger on like the sidelines, like he's going to be our next coach. Like, dude, just because he was here and successful and you loved him doesn't mean he should coach.
That's true. Oh, but random thing. I've only seen one random thing and another tweet and nothing else backing it up. Did James Harrison say something about Patrick Queen getting released? I saw someone posted that. I think Steelers
was he the one who
posted
made the comment about like his performance or something, and then Patrick Queen, was that him or was that somebody else?
I thought it was James Harrison. I wasn't sure. If anyone in the chat knows, I wasn't, because dude, he has been not shy at all to say what he feels throughout this whole season. So I just don't know. Now, I don't know that would surprise me, but I think that would be unwarranted, and I would love to see what he would do in a competently run defense.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. Harrison's been running his mouth like, I mean, they're talking about like the Tomlin. I hate the conversation about coaching tree. So that whole thing about how Tomlin shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame because of his coaching tree or his lack of his coaching tree. Like Bill Cowher didn't have some crazy great coaching tree either. Do you know what I mean? He made the Hall of Fame. Bill Belichick didn't have like a crazy great coaching tree. Like not everybody is Nick Saban, and nobody is getting awards or winning medals for having the best coaching tree. Like that's not even a real, I mean, that's your imaginary thing, right? That's just something you say because you don't like somebody, because nowhere does anybody say, oh, but you know, he got this because of his coaching tree. You got it because you win games, you win seasons, you win playoffs, you win Super Bowls. Mike Tomlin did that.
Yeah, he did. So that's why I'm happy that not for 1 second since he stepped down there was no relief, there was no other. It was just well, it's serious. So like, I mean, just
here he said James Harrison said on his podcast it has not been announced yet, but Patrick Queen has been released per Omar Khan. Maybe.
Well,
but
if that's true,
I think you're sort of shitty if you got told that in confidence and then you said it on your podcast and you weren't supposed to. I think that's shitty, and it kind of speaks to your character. And I've always been a big James Harrison fan, but I think that's shit.
Yeah, that just seems weird to me to choose that platform to do it. So I certainly hope that wasn't how Patrick Queen learned about it.
I certainly hope not too, but James Harrison sounds like a bitter old bitch, and it's just not an attractive look, and he needs to stop. Like, he had a lot of success in Pittsburgh. I understand he wasn't always happy about the way everything went down, but he also wasn't always doing everything he was supposed to do. And where other coaches and teams might not have put up with him, the Steelers continued to give him an opportunity and chances to come back. And so, yeah, the bitter old wench look is not a good one on him. I don't know what his problem is.
And I do remember when he was, now I understand not wanting to change your style of play, but he was asked, could you stop hitting guys directly in the head full force? And he was like, no, gotta keep doing it. Now, back then I
understand. I get it. He played like a weird time on the cusp, but so did Ryan Clark, so did a million other guys. And they had to learn to adjust too, right? So you're not being asked to change your style of play because the coaches are coming to you and saying, you don't do what we want, you don't fit this, and we want you to do this. You're getting asked because the league changed its rules. So like what you're doing is not legal. So you're hurting your team, which is selfish, when you hit people illegally when you know you're not supposed to, and you're hurting yourself. Yeah, he said he indeed said on his podcast. Oh, did I just pull the same one up?
Yeah, no, you so if anyone who doesn't remember, when the Bill Cowher thing happened and we hired Mike Tomlin, there was about 21 days in between the two. So that's generally, I feel, what we're looking at, because you want to make sure you do your due diligence, but you don't drag your feet. And there's certain rules about who you interview and how you have to bring them in, all that. So once everything's been good, I trust them to bring it in. But yeah, for anyone who's like, oh, they're dragging your feet, 21 days. Just after that, we'll start.
There's a lot of jobs out there this year, and Ravens, Buffalo, Steelers, to me, are three teams that are so similar. You're almost looking for the same type of guy. Do you know what I mean? So you're got what, 9 or 10 teams looking for head coaches. I know a couple of them have filled them, but you got these teams looking for head coaches, and you got this like just this small pool of who you think is good. So unless the Steelers really have like somebody kind of off the radar on their radar, can't wait too long, because
that's a good point.
At some point, the Chris Shulas aren't going to wait forever if they're getting other.
And that, especially if we want to get the Schausenhaus or that guy along with a Shula, then we got to. Right. You're right.
Yeah, because he was looking
21 days back then.
I don't want him to rush. Like, I'm not saying rush the process, right? But we also can't dilly-dally too much. I don't remember how many other teams were looking for head coaches the year that we hired Tomlin. Like, was it a big group like this? Was it just a few teams? Do you know what I mean? I don't have any idea. It was also so different back then. Anyhow, any final thoughts before we shut it down for the night? No score predictions.
Yeah, no score predictions, and it's way too early to even do way too early anything. We're in that weird. Yeah, I just have to say this is one of those times where I get to kick back a bit and just say, okay,
yeah,
let's see where this chessboard ends up, and then go forward with it. But I'm intrigued to watch the fan base implode regardless of the decision.
Oh, because it's happening. It's happening. So for the off season, Zac and I will do like we did last season. We'll do some draft prep stuff. We'll do some looking at positional groups and like how they fared last year overall, and like who we think will stay and go, and is there anybody we kind of have our eyes on. We'll do some of those things as we go along. Last year we kept thinking like there won't be something to talk about on next week's show. There was always stuff to talk about. The drama never ends, so I have no fear that we won't find material, but we should be back next Tuesday as normal, back on track with our regular schedule. We appreciate your guys' support and while we were back and forth and in and out, and we appreciate you guys watching us tonight. Please do us a favor, like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. Give us a follow on social media, and let us know what your thoughts are on what's going on with the coaching situation.
Have a good night, everyone.
LeeAnn and Zac would like to thank you for tuning in to the Steel City Huddle podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss a thing.